Well, Seattle's not going to win shootouts. They're 0-5 if they're asked to score, if they give up more than 25 points. And Geno Smith has been sacked 19 times in the last 4 games. He throws too many picks. But I like the coaching staff. I like their perimeter talent at wide receiver and corner. Their pass rush, better than it was in previous years. They're a top 10 team. I don't know if they can win a playoff game. Maybe, but I'll put Seattle at 10.
Number 9.
I like Denver. I think they have one of the best coaches, maybe the best coach after Andy Reid in the NFL. They've won 5 of 7 games. Their only losses to Baltimore and Kansas City. Bo Nix, 8-3 over his last 11 games, does not make a lot of mistakes. Their offensive line, quietly, Sean Payton, an offensive coach, has rebuilt it in 2 years. PFF has it at number 2. Denver at 9.
Number 8.
Baltimore. Listen, they're only team in the league averaging 400 yards. Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry. There's a lot to like. Special teams, bit of a liability now. Justin Tucker, it's called age, mid-30s, and the back end of the defense outside of Kyle Hamilton worries me. I'm going to put them there. Their scoring defense is bottom quarter of the league, so that worries me. It's like having a bad bullpen. You can outplay people and lose games. I have Baltimore at 8.
Number 7.
Sammy Darnold. Eventually, I was right. He's a baller. Leads the NFL with 46 completions of 20-plus yards. This is not a dink-and-dunk offense. They will throw the ball down the field. I think Kevin O'Connell is really a spectacular coach. They are 7-1 in one-score games. That's not just Darnold. That is coaching. Vikings at 7.
Number 6.
Pittsburgh Steelers. I think their ceiling's a little bit low, but they're 5-0 against teams that are 500 or better. It's a classic Mike Tomlin recipe. His teams have always played well as underdogs or backed into a corner. Russell Wilson, say what you want, passer rating in the fourth quarter of 120. He's good when it matters. And to me, that's a team that can win a playoff game or 2.
Number 5.
Green Bay, they're still a tad young. Are they a Super Bowl team? Boy, does Jordan Love have a whip, man. He's got some talent. They become a power run team. Now, they play at Detroit Thursday. I actually kind of like them in that spot. They're top 5 in total offense and rushing offense. They become more of a power running team now with Josh Jacobs, and I'm here for it. I do feel they're still a year off. Green Bay at 5.
Number 4.
Okay, my final 4 teams are the teams I think can win a Super Bowl. Kansas City. Listen, he's been sacked. Patrick Mahomes has 5 times in back-to-back games. I don't like the protection right now at offensive tackle. They're getting Isaiah Pacheco back. That helps play action. They're 11-1 in one-score games. Their point differential is the lowest ever for an 11-1 team. I don't love that, but I trust Andy Reid, Mahomes, Kelsey, Chris Jones, and Spags. I have them at 4.
Number 3.
Detroit's getting banged up on the defensive end. That worries me. 3rd toughest schedule remaining. Will they get knocked out of the perch, and will Philadelphia to be a number 1 seed? They've led by 10-plus points in 10 of 11 games, so they usually play with a lead. Probably won't be like that in the playoffs. I think Thursday is fascinating. I have Detroit at 3.
Number 2.
Philadelphia. They figured out Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, 20 touchdowns, 1 pick in his 8-game winning streak. I don't want him throwing 30 times. I don't want Brady's and Manning's throwing 40 times. They figured it out. By the way, this team's 9-0 when A.J. Brown plays. I've never seen a great team led by a receiver, but they don't lose when he plays. I have Philadelphia at 2.
Number 1.
Buffalo. I think it's the best version of Buffalo. I like that they have James Cook, Dalton Kincaid. They've missed multiple good players during this stretch. I love Josh Allen, and he's matured. He's not as reckless as he once was. I think they have their best offensive line, their best running game. When Josh first got there, all their best players felt like defensive guys. Now, I think many of their best players are offensive guys, and they're getting healthier on the defensive side.
Wow. That is juicy. Juicy, juicy, juicy. Oh, man. Where do I even want to begin with all of this? Listen. This, Denver Broncos now, which I had been saying that they're a top 10 team. So it's awesome to see them entering that equation. I've made a couple Broncos videos just today alone, actually. The Seattle Seahawks, I still toss and turn on. I really, really do. It's so hard for me to envision. I'm trying to think if there's any other teams that are not in the top 10 right now that I'm trying to think off quickly that would like who I would replace with a team like the Seahawks, and none come to my mind, at least right now. I'm sure something will potentially arise, but if not, then I think, oh, maybe the Commanders. There we go. I think the Commanders are a better team than the Seattle Seahawks, but I don't know. Maybe more equal, maybe more 50-50, honestly. The Denver Broncos, I literally just made a video that see how the Denver Broncos are on top of the Kansas City Chiefs. I think in the playoffs that the Broncos could absolutely beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Absolutely. Not a single doubt in my mind. Again, I'm not betting on it. I'm not saying it's absolutely going to happen, but the Broncos are more than capable. The Broncos are an incredibly underrated team, and Bo Nix is officially an underrated quarterback. He's been playing big time, and I've just been so wildly impressed. The Baltimore Ravens, yeah, man, I just don't know what to do with the Ravens. I just don't know who they are. I have an insane belief and fear in a Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Again, come time playoffs, it's just like, how could you ever feel comfortable going against those two guys? I don't care who you are, whether you're the Bills, the Eagles, the Lions, the Chiefs, the Packers, the Steelers even, who obviously we know do. I don't know how you could ever feel comfortable. Because in any given moment, Lamar Jackson can just do some of the most extraordinary things. But the problem is I just don't ever trust the game plan or the preparation for the Baltimore Ravens. And that's why I just don't know what to do with them. I really, really, truly don't. It's the most honest take I can give on them. I just don't know what to do. And the thing that I do know is I would move on from Harbaugh, and I would go out and get Ben Johnson. That's what I would do. Move on from Harbaugh and get out Ben Johnson. It would almost be a benefit for them to not make the playoffs. So then they can like start hiring, because I don't know, right? Like the way how coaching hiring might unfold, it can get a little weird, and a lot of that stuff goes on through playoffs and stuff. But it's just like, go out and get Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson would be able to unleash and maximize and actually elevate Lamar Jackson. And I don't think the Baltimore Ravens have ever elevated Lamar Jackson. And then you have the Minnesota Vikings. And again, Colin for a while, I didn't even have them in the top 10. And he had them in the top 10, then they're out, and then they're in, and then they're out, and now they're back in. And I'm a huge believer of the Minnesota Vikings. I think where the Vikings are at right now is they are just a really, 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 really solid team to the core, which makes them so difficult to beat. But they don't have that wow factor, so people don't fear them. They don't have the fear of a Saquon Barkley. And I know they got Justin Jefferson and stuff like that. I get it. I'm a huge fan of him, and I even said that Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson were like the best 1-2, quarterback receiving combo, or at least a top one at that. But for whatever reason, their big game potential just does not strike the fear that, say, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills do, right? All the weapons that the Detroit Lions have, obviously Patrick Mahomes, Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, Devontae for the Eagles. Like it hits differently for the average person. And I'm just curious to see how that view will age come time playoffs, because the Minnesota Vikings, the Packers, and the Lions, obviously, they're all fighting for the number 1 seed. The Vikings are right there. The Packers beat the Lions. Oh my God, that will open up Pandora's box. It'll be a free-for-all who can just get those wins, and they lock it up. And then also, if the Eagles stumble, now the number 1 seed is up for grabs. And again, that changes a lot. So the Vikings, the Packers, and the Lions are just really interesting pieces. And then again, we get to the Steelers, and Colin's like, oh, they can win a playoff game or two. The Steelers can win a Super Bowl. I believe that. I really, really believe that. Russell Wilson has been playing unbelievable. He's been playing like a prime Hall of Fame Russ. Okay? If Pickens can mature a little bit, that defense can continue to be special. Watt and company. Again, who you picking over the Steelers? Obviously, the Chiefs can win, the Bills can win, right? Like, and the Ravens can win. Like, all those things are possible. But again, I just don't know how anyone can say with any degree of confidence who's winning in the AFC with amongst those teams. I just don't see it. I don't see the confidence. And for that, I put the Steelers as a true, legitimate, not kind of like, hey, yeah, they're a really good team. They can win a playoff game or two. No, they are a legitimate contender. A legitimate contender. And the Packers, and I've said this before about the Packers, they just have to continue to evolve. They need to continue to grow and get better. They need to kind of get that next level. They are not as good as they are right now, but the talent is there. But because of their youth, they're still in the process of growing and getting better. And I compared it to the Lions of last year, where it's just like, will they continue to get better week to week to week? We don't think of teams like that, especially individual players. We think of like rookie quarterbacks through that lens, but we don't look at it through the lens of other position players. But the reality is of course it happens. Of course it happens. So if the Packers stay at their current baseline, I think they're obviously still without a shadow of a doubt a top team in the NFL and will be trouble in the playoffs. But for them to be a legitimate, true Super Bowl contender, you need to see that like kind of next step, that next level. And that is just a sheer factor of their age and where they're at in their own, team building aspect. But they are right there. I just need to see them to kind of like continue to do it. And if they do, again, it's like all bets are off, man. I'm not going up. I'm not betting against Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. Get out of here. Matt LaFleur. Those guys know what they're doing. And the Kansas City Chiefs, I mean, listen, they are such a fascinating team. If I did not know who Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Spags were, I would not have a droplet of fear facing them. I would have zero fear. I would be like, yeah, man, bring it on. I would have nothing but confidence against them. But because I know who Andy Reid is and Mahomes and Spags and even Kelsey, I'm like, well, yeah. You'll still be uncomfortable. But it really does feel to me that the Buffalo Bills, even the Steelers, the Ravens, like they should, and I'm not saying they will. Let me say it again. I'm not saying they will, but they should beat the Kansas City Chiefs come time playoffs. They just should. They should beat the Kansas City Chiefs in week 14 and 15, 16, 17. Like they absolutely positively should. Maybe they get out. Maybe Pacheco really unlocks something for this team. I don't know. But I'm just not seeing it. They struggle in too many games. There's a difference between playing close games and just having close games and struggling. The Chiefs have genuinely been struggling. And when they win a close game, it's by virtue of the other team losing it rather than the Kansas City Chiefs winning it. That's the difference for me. So again, the Kansas City Chiefs are without a shadow of a doubt. Again, let me say it one more time. Without a shadow of a doubt, a top team in the NFL. But it just seems like if you can actually bring your A game, which you better bring your A game come time playoffs, these other teams should win. Their A game is better than the Kansas City Chiefs' A game. The problem is that the Kansas City Chiefs are more consistent at bringing their A game than these other teams like the Panthers, the Raiders, the Broncos. And so by virtue, they come away with those wins. So it's just, it's going to be interesting. And the Lions, yeah, the injuries, I can't gauge what the injuries mean for the Lions. I'm just not going to be able to gauge what some of these injuries mean. So I'm not going to be so quick just to say, oh, the Lions, they're injured. They were the number one team. Now that they're banged up, they're no longer. I'm not going to put that on the Lions. I have no idea who they have throughout the ranks and what those players can do once they're on the field, once they're given the opportunity to be who they need to be. I'm just not going to do it. And I don't know. So I just, in that regard, I'm just not going to be like, yeah, the Lions, man, injuries, this is tough. What are they going to do? Like, I'm just not going to make that statement because I don't know. And anyone who wants to just be so confident in what certain injuries mean for a team, you got to wait and see. They are right now just a wait and see what are the injuries, the extent of the injuries. Do they bounce back? Who can step up, next man up, right? How much can coaching kind of help with this regard? That's to me where you got to see it. And then it really does kind of bring you into the Philadelphia Eagles and the Buffalo Bills for that matter. because these are two teams that are coming off of a lot of momentum. I would say even though the Lions have been winning, their momentum has slowed down a bit against the Bears and stuff like that, against the Texans, which I know at this point was a couple weeks ago, but it feels like the momentum for the Lions have slowed down a little bit. Again, combine that with some injuries. But the Bills, huge win, obviously, against the Kansas City Chiefs and a dominant win against the 49ers in a snowstorm. The Eagles have really, honestly, they've had a lot of momentum building games. Beating the Commanders, beating the Kansas City, the Baltimore Ravens, the Rams. Like, there was a lot of these games that people were kind of like, oh, let's see what happens with the Eagles. And the Eagles passed with flying colors. So they have a tremendous amount of momentum. They weren't even full strength, and they beat the Ravens. Their defense has continued to step up and be elevated. And kind of like Colin talked about the Buffalo Bills, where it's like the team around just Josh Allen has stepped up and elevated. So I'm just reaching the point where I'm seeing, the NFL entering week 14, and I'm like, oh my God, can't this just be like week 17? Like, can't we just get on with this now, man? Like, we are so close. It's December. We still have the whole month of December, and I'm just kind of like, man, can't it just be January? Because we are officially at the point now where it's just like, it is impossible for me not to just constantly look at every single team through a playoff lens. At this point, I'm just like, oh my God, just, who cares? Like, what's going to happen come time playoffs? What's the weather going to be? Home, away, who's injured, who's healthy? What's the game plan? Let's go. And that's honestly where I'm at right now with these teams. It's just for me, it's just playoffs. But yeah, what do you guys think of Colin's top 10? This is definitely I'm looking at some of these teams and I'm kind of like, this is not what I'm used to seeing here. It's like, we got the Packers down there, no 49ers, the Seahawks, the Broncos, the Ravens at 8, the Eagles 2, the Chiefs 4, the Bills 1. I'm like, this is, I'm like the Steelers. I'm like, where is all this right now? This is wild. But I love it. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Colin's herd hierarchy, his top 10 teams? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.